new ideas in project management, and the latest trends in career innovation and business agility. This is Project Management on the Go, a podcast by the PMI-Northern Italy chapter.
Welcome to everybody and welcome back to our podcast listeners. I am Valerio Casalini, project leader of Northern Italy chapter of PMI. In this episode, we look inside to our organization, the Project Management Institute, since I will interview Jacques Bonetto, the Vice President Marketing and Communication of PMI France. Before starting, I would kindly ask to Jacques a short personal presentation. Please, Jacques.
Thank you very much. Hello all. So my first name is Jacques. People call me CJ. And my last name is Bonetto. So as you hear, I'm half French, half Italian. I was born and bred in the far east town in France, Menton, which is really next to the Italian border. And with the Italian North Italy chapter, we always have connections. In fact, I joined PMI, at the beginning of this century. I was certified in 2005. And then I was responsible for the PMI Côte d'Azur part between Monaco, Menton, and Cannes and Antibes. And since a few years now, I'm the vice president, one of the vice presidents of PMI France. I'm responsible for marketing and communication. And I am as well what we call the PMI-EF Education Foundation. So contact for France. That's about me.
Well, my compliments for your career. Okay, first, I would like to ask you some data about PMI France. For example, how many members does it have? How many volunteers? And which geographical areas are they mainly from?
Well, the PMI France is a big chapter, I would say. We are in the top 3, 4, 5 worldwide. It depends the numbers. We were 3, now we are 4. So we are about between 5,000 and 6,000, in France. So which means that we are lots. And the idea is that we try to be as close as possible to our members. So we are organized in we call that branches. A branch is a geographical area, as you mentioned. And so we have 12 branches today from southeast France, so d'Azur, the branch I'm from, down to north of France, around Lille. The biggest branch is Paris, I would say, of course, with more than 1,000 members. And when we have big branches like that, we subdivide the branch we call that pole. So areas. So you can imagine Paris, we have the pole of La Défense, we have center of Paris, we have 3, 4 poles like that. In Côte d'Azur, for example, we have only 2 poles. Sophia Antipolis, which is the biggest technology park with all our members, and Monte Carlo. We are trying to have a pole in Monte Carlo. So that's the way we are organized. And as I said, the main one are the Paris, we call that Île-de-France branch. And as far as I'm concerned, I was responsible for the Côte d'Azur. We have a big branch around Lyon as well, a big branch around Toulouse, when there are activities. That's the way we organize. And about volunteers per branch, depends. It can be 3, 4, down to 20, 30. In Paris, we have, let's say, 20, 30 volunteers. So in France, in total, we have a couple of hundreds of volunteers. Of course, not all at the same level of involvement, but we have at least one responsible for each branch, and in each branch, at least one responsible for the local activities, events, communication, and relationships. And then since we have a few initiatives, we talk about that, we have as well some volunteers dedicated to some initiatives. That's about PMI France.
I can say that we have a similar structure obviously related to the different geographical areas of northern Italy. Another question I would like to ask you is which professions or job do these members represent mainly? For example, are they all project managers, or you have also other professions?
Okay. So first of all, it's a lot around IT. Not everybody, of course, but a lot around IT, mainly in Paris and in around Grenoble, for example, and in south of France. In the center of France, for example, it's less IT. In the north of France, it's less IT. So less information, computer science kind of activity. Are they all project managers? I would say, of course not, but mainly, if they are not project managers, they are PMOs, or they are consultants, trainers, coach in project management, waterfall or agile. We are embracing both, and some other professions, but it's around project management, like business analysis or something like that. But 80%, 90% is project management related activities, whether it's pure project managers, PMOs, consultant, trainers, and so on and so forth.
Okay, I find many similarities with PMI-Northern Italy chapter with what you just told. We also have many IT people, obviously depending of the type of industry that is more popular in geographical area, but I can agree in principle with the description that you have explained for the France. So let's talk more about the volunteer team of PMI France. How is the organization of volunteers, and how the governance of this team of volunteers is conducted?
As I said in the introduction, and as you said, I'm VP, so Vice President, Marketing Communication. In the board of VP of PMI France, we have a VP, a Vice President, responsible for each main domain. And of course, one domain is volunteers. So we have one VP responsible to animate, take care, and communicate with volunteers. So we have this governance at the chapter level. And since we are organized in branches, in each big branch, we have as well somebody taking care of volunteers, making sure that volunteers are attracted, are safe, can benefit from the activities, and so on and so forth. That's the way we're organizing. Concretely, it means that we have, for example, a communication to a newsletter, we call that a feuille de route, for volunteers every couple of months, that talk about the life of the volunteers of the quarter, the new volunteers joining the teams, and so on and so forth. So we have somebody in my marketing and communication team taking care of this communication with volunteers via this feuille de route. So that's one way, to keep the link with volunteers, because we are a big chapter, so it's hard to be connected with everybody. And then we are organizing every year what we call an interbranche, so one meeting for each branch to get connected together. And that's the opportunity for the responsible of each branch and the top volunteers of each branch to get together and spend time together during, usually it's a weekend. Half a day is work, work connections, best practice sharing, so on and so forth. And another part is having fun together to keep the momentum as a volunteer teams. So that's one of the two examples that we are doing, feuille de route every quarter with the volunteer of the month, for example, and this interbranche, where, by the way, we elect the volunteer of the year, for example, with a ceremony and so on and so forth.
This is something different that we do not have, and could be a good idea, the volunteer of the quarter and then the volunteer of the year. So this is a point of difference between chapter France and Northern Italy. Okay, and about the volunteer activity, which are the main projects or initiatives that are presently ongoing in PMI France?
We have a lot, and I would say too much, too many initiatives, because we cannot fulfill everything. But the main projects are, I talk about PMI-EF, for example. So we have a main one initiative about which comes from the North Italy chapter that I learned when Walter Ginevri was heading that, and which is the the kit for primary schools, the project in Erba, as he used to say. So we are trying to deploy that in south of France and now in France. So we have this initiative for primary school and secondary school, so PMI-EF, now PMI Youth and social impact. That's the new name, of course, for PMI.org, but that's one of the initiatives. On the social impact side, we have an initiative to move to what we call the green project management. So we have an initiative to try to understand and deploy and communicate about green project management. So we have something like that. We have initiatives like we call that Horatio. I don't know if you know the club that are called Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a worldwide organization like PMI, but not for project management, for public speaking. So yes, improving the way you present. Yes, and we have tried to connect both. So we have one initiative that we call Horatio, and a few members, volunteers, meet every month via Zoom so far to practice public speaking, the same model of Toastmasters. That's another initiative. The last one I want to talk about is around the PMBOK V7 that have came to life this summer, and we have an initiative to with a group of people to study each chapter per group and then present it to the committee in project management France every month. So we have few people digging one chapter and then presenting, adding example, not paraphrasing what is in the PMBOK V7, of course, but present their point of view on that and some examples. And we are lucky to have part of this team, Jean-Luc Favreau, which is one of the PMI fellow who did participate to the writing of this PMI V7. So he brings a lot on that. So that's one of the initiatives that we have that I want to highlight. And we have some others, but PMI-EF, PMBOK V7, Horatio, and Green Project Management are one of the big. We have as well PMI for women, or women for PMI. So we have quite a lot. I would say too much because we are a little bit dispersed, but it's so interesting so that people are trying to launch initiatives.
Very interesting, Christian Jacques. There will be a lot to talk about similar initiatives that we have in Northern Italy chapter and also differences. Just to mention that, yes, for PMBOK 7, we had one podcast some month ago, and we had also some initiatives. But for sure, this initiative that you have described to study and repropose to other people different parts of the PMBOK 7 is surely a good initiative that can be also a good idea for us. For the Toastmaster, we have people in our organization, in our local organization, that are members of Toastmasters. So also this is a good hint for some new initiatives. Okay, Project in Erba and the part of social good for sure is something that we cover since the beginning of initiatives. And also on sustainability, we had in 2019 the last PMI Italy event. So the event joining PMI North, Central and South Italy was dedicated to sustainability, and we are following anyway this topic during the different events. But for sure, you gave to me and also to people listening many good ideas or approaches also to implement here. Okay, I want to ask you also, which are the plans for the future? So initiatives that are not yet started, but that you would like to start for the future.
There are two things perhaps I want to highlight that. One initiative that we have just started, and I think the plan for the future is to expand this one, which is called the mentorat. The idea is to connect, I would say, old rabbits with newbies, all the project managers with newcomers, with youth, and so a mentor and mentee. So we have started this initiative, and the plan for the future is really to expand that. So to propose this kind of service to our volunteers and members. You are young, you have a specific, or you are not young, you have a specific need for your project about a specific subject, risk management, or how to conduct this steering committee. And you can be contacted, or you can contact a mentor who has highlighted being proficient in this area. And you can improve the way you work by discussing and having help from mentors. So that's something we started a little bit, and the plan for the future is really to make that vivid and to expand that to everybody. And that's one of the first one. And the second plan I think I want to highlight is something that we have started as well a couple of years ago, and with the pandemic, it has been now a bit not on hold but virtual. Is we call that the PMP Days, Project Management Professional Days, which is a kind of job fair to connect students with companies that are hiring. We did that physically in the school. We have started this year doing that virtually using a tool, and we want to expand that to make that open and perhaps to go outside of France as well, because when we are working with schools like Schema, EDEC, there are a lot of students that are not French, that talk mainly English. So the companies that are hiring can be everywhere in Europe, for example, at least in Europe. And if we make it hybrid, so physically in the school, but as well online, like we did like we tried this year, it might be that this PNP Day becomes something more European than pure French. Again, connecting school students. They are not members of PMI. They are just students and looking for jobs in the area of project management. Connect that with companies that are proposing trainees or first job, or and so on and so forth. So that's something. That's the two plans I would say that I could highlight today.
Very interesting. About the job, I can mention that we have started an initiative on job a couple of years ago, really trying to find a way to join the demand and offer of professional jobs. So we are following a similar path in our group. So you mentioned the pandemic situation. I would like to ask you, how did you deal with this situation? How did you manage, for example, the organization of events and the members' involvement into the organization during the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think we all face the same issue, of course, and I guess that we all manage it more or less the same way, which means move from a physical meeting to an online meeting, of course. So quite quickly, when the pandemic started, when this lockout started and so on and so forth, we clearly communicated on our website and on our newsletters that from now on, we don't stop the communication, we don't stop the sharing and the events, but of course everything is online. So somebody from, by the way, my marketing and communication team took the lead to coordinate webinars. So we were using GoToWebinar and GoToMeeting at this time. We moved to Zoom now, but it was what we were using. and we had a couple of licenses, and we were managing, coordinating every branch's events to be sure that we can have every couple of weeks or more events spread across France, organized by a specific branch, but coordinated, which means not the two the same week, not using the same, even not the same day, but spread. And we have started as well to define kind of ideas where some branch will organize event on the same idea, like PMI-7, for example. So that's what we did to try to use this opportunity to offer events coming from a branch to another branch, but of course, in using a virtual space. Like I said, we are using GoToMeeting and so on and so forth. We start using as well some tools like Klaxoon, because Klaxoon is one of the partners of PMI France to do some not only top-down presentation, but brainstorming. And for example, the last inter-branch event that we had with our volunteers were virtual. It was virtual. It was in October. We are not sure at this time, so it was purely virtual. We hope that next September, because this inter-branch is usually after summer, we made that physical, and we are now in the transition mode. We have one big event, PMI France big event every year. This year it will be next week, by the way, in Avignon, and it's a hybrid, so physically and online. So we are in this transition. It's not easy, but that's the way we did, and we've tried to not lose too many members. It's not easy because nothing replaces the physical connections and that. So that's where we are now, and we hope that with the end of the pandemic, I would say, we'll keep hybrid, focus on physical, having a kind of hybrid way, and offer both. I mean, offer experiences from both worlds, physical and virtual.
Yes, thank you. I can share a completely similar view of approach to the pandemic situation that we had in Northern Italy chapter, Italy. For sure, yes, we had also to convert many events and initiatives to remote, with the advantage that there was more inter-branch, as you also mentioned, interaction. Even though we lost a lot of physical networking. And now we are in a sort of transition phase where we hope to come back soon to have many physical events. We already are starting to have some physical. Okay, Christian, Jacques, we are close to the end of our time, but at last, before closing, I would like to ask you a more personal question. Which are the main takeaway, both professional but also personal, that you have received from your experience and you are still receiving within PMI France?
The top two are, well, I think it's thanks to PMI France that I found my last job. I was not yet a volunteer, and Jean-Claude Bravet, who was, perhaps you know him, was the former president of PMI France, who trained me on PMI and PMP. He asked me one day to make a presentation to one of the events. So I did the presentation about the subject, about knowledge management, whatever. And in the room, there was somebody from the company that I joined a couple of years ago, who came to me a few months after, saying, "Oh, by the way, I heard what you said. I have a need. Perhaps you might help me, and perhaps you would like to join my company." At this time, I was willing to change. I knocked at his door and remember me, and then I joined this company, and I spent 12 years in this company thanks to PMI. It was really that. And the second one, and I want to come back to what I said at the beginning, is my experience with PMI-EF. When I discovered this kit for primary school, it was really positively, impacting me. I was invited in Gorizia, by Walter. I discovered that, well, I brought back this kit in France. We translated it in French and we start deploying. And for me, it's the top one experience. PMI used to say, good thing happen when you join PMI. I would say marvelous thing happen when you try to deploy this kit for primary school and secondary school, because you have connection with kids and you have their lights in their eyes, and you think that what you bring, thanks to PMI, is going far more than just helping the profession, but helping the young people to grow. It's like citizenship building. That's what you bring when you do that. So that's my top two experience. It helped me finding my job, and now what I'm doing with this PMI EF is going above PMI, above project management.
Excellent. I thank Christian Jacques very much. I thank you for your explanation, but also for your enthusiasm in describing the activities of PMI France. I also thanks our listeners, and goodbye to next episode.
Goodbye.
Have you enjoyed this episode? Then don't forget to activate the alerts or to follow us so you will not miss the next ones. This PMI NIC podcast grants you 0.5 PDU. You can report on the PMI CCRS section, online or digital media. We are waiting for you at the next episode of Project Management on the Go.